Welcome to Hand Forged, the podcast where blue-collar grit meets modern insight. We celebrate the stories of tradespeople and bridge traditional craftsmanship with today's evolving business world. Each episode brings you real stories, practical advice, and insights from skilled professionals and entrepreneurs to help you elevate your work, overcome challenges, and grow. So grab your tools and get ready to be inspired. This is Hand Forged.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hand Forged. We are here today with Dennis Charles from Dennis Charles Business Strategist.
Yes, it is.
All right. So Dennis is a business coach. We had met through BNI. I had visited another BNI group in Amesbury. Dennis was there kind of doing a little speech and education moment for BNI members. Me and him kind of hit it off. We chatted, and then we set up an appointment to kind of go out for lunch and shoot the shit a little bit and talk business. And we started talking about the podcast and got him signed up. He went through the whole process, and here he is.
Great. Well, thanks so much for having me, Frank. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on and taking the drive. Where'd you come up from?
Came up from Boxborough, Massachusetts. So about 48 minutes.
Not too bad. How was traffic on 495?
It was pretty good this morning.
Was it?
Yeah, sometimes
brutal,
it can
man.
be brutal, yeah.
Dude, I do a lot of traveling, and because my boys play lacrosse, so I travel up and down the East Coast all friggin' year. I'm going to Orlando next weekend. And I'll drive through New York. I'll drive through all these different places, Pennsylvania, go through Philly. The worst place that I see traffic is always I live in East Hampstead, New Hampshire. So like I go down 125 into Plastow, New Hampshire and get on 495.
Yeah.
From Plastow to like Chelmsford is just the worst traffic ever.
Yeah.
Like worse than New York most of the time. I can hate that whole corridor. So I don't want to go on a tangent about traffic, but...
I talk about traffic. I mean, I was born in London, spent some time in New Jersey with an office in New York, and then came to Boston. And traffic is quite the constant in my life.
Yeah, it's a thing. I'm nice now because I take all the back roads from my house to the showroom in the morning.
Yeah.
It's Massachusetts, but it's very like New Hampshire-esque. So like I just cruise, get my coffee, listen to my podcast or like a book or something.
My secret weapon is timing. You know, I get on the road early in the morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock, before everyone else does. You know, try and beat that, and then also be out of the city before then. And it doesn't always work out, but it's the best I can do. But Boston traffic is something else.
For sure.
At Seacoast Cabinet, Raleigh, Mass., we offer a full range of services from design to installation, tailored to residential and commercial applications. We carry 3 lines of American-made cabinetry to fit any budget, ensuring that you get the best quality and value. For more information or a free quote and design, head to seacoastcabinetne.com.
All right, so let's get into it a little bit, man. I'm excited to have you on. You know, the biggest thing for this podcast for me is that, like, I want to help the blue-collar guys, right? Like, and I told you before, like, you can have good carpenters, you can have good plumbers, you can have good electricians that are very good and skilled at what they do, but operating business is not as easy for them, right? So, like, the idea of the podcast is that that's what we want to do to help. And in talking to you, I know that you've worked with a bunch of different blue-collar businesses. You have a little bit of a blue-collar background. You've done some blue-collar jobs. So I was really excited to have you on for that piece. You know, I could line up tradesmen all day long to come in here and talk about what they do, but to have somebody come in and talk business, I think is huge. And I think that, people are going to get a lot of information out of this. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your business and kind of what you do and, what you've done to be able to help some of the blue collar guys?
Sure, yeah. As you said, I'm a business strategist, which I have a proprietary system which I run, which is strategize, systematize, optimize. So really focusing on the big vision, putting in systems, and then making everything run effectively to get the results that you want. I got into business coaching kind of by accident. I was a former sports coach. You can tell by the accent, I'm from London, England, and I coached the sport of soccer. It was my ticket to come to America. I came over in 1994 to work at a summer camp in Pennsylvania, coaching soccer, and fell in love with the place. I got off the plane at JFK, and it was 95 degrees. There were taxis everywhere. It was humid. The smells were bad. It was noisy, honking. I'm like, this is my place. I like this. So over the next few years, I networked my way into a job coaching soccer full time in New Jersey, and then started my own business. And then the adventure really began. I did marketing for my former employer, did pretty well with it. Realized once I got into my own business, there was so much that I didn't know. And fortunately, I'm a decent learner, so I was able to get books. I was able to get mentors, coaches for myself. And it took about 8 or 10 years to really establish my business. By the time I'd established it, I realized I didn't want to be a soccer coach. I actually knew a business coach. And I said, I could do that. And I would love to be able to do that, to be able to help businesses. My mom, she was like a serial entrepreneur. She was an immigrant to London back in the 50s. She became a nurse, but from there, she's just started her own businesses, and she would be like a driving instructor. She'd be a courier. She'd be like a gas station franchise owner. She'd be selling encyclopedias. And she started a horticultural business, and she's setting up all these businesses and taking them to a level of success, and then either just getting frustrated, getting bored with it, and then moving on. And ultimately, I look back and say, you know what, she could really have done with someone to help her with her business strategy and some coaching and some encouragement and some pointers. So, in many respects, I'm kind of, the work I do was implanted into me as a child. I was just watching my mom. My first real job was working for my mom, getting paid £1 an hour at the market stall, selling plastic planters and plant flowers, and would be selling myself and my sister. I'd be about 10 years old. My sister would be 8, and my mom would have to go off and do other jobs. And so we'd be there, and they'd come up and ask us, are these rhododendrons? Do they flower year round? And I'd be like, maybe. I have to wait till my mum comes back.
They're just flowers to me.
Yeah. But, invariably, I'd say, all right, we'll take some. And then we'd sell these plastic planters. And at the end of the day, we put all the money together, and there was about £100. And then she paid £20 to the person at the market. She paid my sister £10, myself £10, and then she kept the profit. And I'm like, she's getting more money than the rest of us, and we did all the work. Kind of like that. So that was something from an early age. Then I had this. I left school at 16. Just school and me didn't get along.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in education, but just the school system and I, just the authority. I wasn't a fan at 15, 16 years old. So I thought, I'm going to go make my own way in the world. And I got myself a job working in a plastics factory. Yeah. And at the time, it was brutal. It was very little pay, really tough environment. There were toxins in the air. There was noise the whole time. There were people screaming at you. And quite frankly, I wasn't earning that much money. After I paid my expenses, I probably had about 10, 15 pounds in my pocket for the week. And I thought, for a 40-hour week, that's not really that much. But stayed there, got promoted, started working in the stores, and got this pretty decent job where I was able to set my own timetable, my schedule, my own, I could take good time off, could take vacations in Europe. And I said, this is pretty good, I had my own place to live. And then I went, I'm really bored here. I want to go do something else. And so I went back to college, actually ran to the local college and got there and said, I want to go back to school. And they said, that's very nice. What would you like to do? And I said, well, I like music and I like sports. And they said, we don't do music at this college. I said, sports then, can I come? And they gave me an application form. Thankfully, I think they liked my drive. And they let me in. And I went from being a pretty terrible student at 15 and 16 to actually, I won Student of the Year out of 1,200 students. Yeah. Because I was going back and I was doing it for myself. Yeah. And from there, went on to college, taught for a little bit. I thought teaching would be much better that side of the table rather than that side. It was the same. It was the same bureaucracy, the same craziness. I love the kids, I love the work, but I realized it wasn't for me. And I got the opportunity to come over and coach soccer in America, and that was my ticket to a different life and a new life, and fortunately, the life I have now.
Interesting. So you went from coaching. So what did you do in college? What did you study in college?
Sports. I did sports science and crucially social psychology.
Interesting.
Which really has been a foundation in a lot of what I do with the coaching work that I do, because a lot of times you work in two areas. with helping a business owner. You're helping them with a skill set, and you're helping them with a mindset. First, you got to work with a mindset. You got to get them into the mindset where they're able to step outside of what they've been doing, what they're comfortable doing, into an area of discomfort, so that they can then begin to see there's possibilities here, that this is not just going to be a 60-hour-a-week grind for the rest of my life. This could be something where I can really build a business, make a difference, and make it, at the end of the day, a saleable asset that maybe I can pass on to my kids, or I can sell to somebody. Yep. And that is a huge shift for a lot of business owners and a lot of blue-collar folks to have, white-collar as well. That has to happen first. And then the slightly easier part is just teaching the skill set as well. And, for me, the skill set based around 5 things: leadership, management, customer service, marketing, and sales. Mm-hmm. A business owner is not going to be great at all 5 of those, probably not even going to be good at all 5 of those. But what I do is work with them on the things that they are really good at, the things that kind of give them energy. I mean, you turned me onto that book by Dan Martell. Yeah. Buy Back Your Time. And this is all he talks about. He talks about buying back your time so that you can do the things that give you energy, that produce better results. Right. And so really, kind of this is the work that I help business owners do. The challenge is I can't do the work for them, right? They've got to want to do it, and then they've got to want to go through that stage of discomfort, learning, change, growth. But on the other side, ultimately, I worked with a company not too far from here down in Lawrence. When we first got involved, I think their revenue was about $850,000 a year. This year, they just celebrated hitting $3 million. Awesome. Because the owner just said, you know what, I'm fed up with putting all this time in and not really even paying myself. I'm willing to put systems in. I'm willing to make changes, willing to bring the right people in, willing to step back, willing to learn, willing to take my licks. And, he's only 40 years old, but, he's running a $3 million business now.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that one of the things that you had said in one of your responses is that, you want to help guys work on their business instead of in their business. And I feel like with the trades, more so than I think anywhere else that I've seen anyways, it's just so hard to do. Mm-hmm. Like electricians, the trades guys get into the trades because they want to be hands-on. They want to be in the houses. They want to be running electrical. They want to be, framing up houses. They want, they want that instant gratification that the trades bring, right? Yeah. Like at the end of the day with the trades, like you have something tangible. It's been the hardest part for me when I took my tool belt off. I think it's been about 4 years now. Went from, building kitchens and building custom furniture to managing an office and staff and, doing sales and that type of stuff. Like at the end of the day, there's nothing tangible for me. Like I'll work a 15-hour day and then I'm like, the fuck did I do all day? Right. I used to joke with the girls I was going to start buying Lego kits. Yeah. And as I got my agenda done, I'd put a couple pieces together, and then at the end of the day, I'd be like, look, I got a fucking spaceship, you know, something like that. But so talk to me a little bit about that. As far as the trades go, it's got to be a pushback. You must see that. And I guess what kind of processes and stuff would you implement to help a guy take his tool belt off and actually work on the business instead of in the business?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, checking to see that guy's willingness. Is he willing to do what it takes? Does he have that vision? Does he want to, maybe in 5, 10, 15 years, not have the tool belt on, run the business, have more freedom, have more time? A lot of folks don't. A lot of folks want to just plow on through. Those that are willing, the first place is really around that mindset. Are you willing to step into your discomfort and say, I can imagine this business being different than it is now. Mm. And that's very, very difficult when you're getting paid 75, 100, 125 an hour. That's the game, right? How many hours can you bill over the week? And, if you look at some of the statistics, tradespeople get paid more than lawyers now in America. Right. There are some very, very successful lawyers. But if you look at average lawyer income, compare it to trades, plumbers, electricians, they're doing pretty well. Yeah. So a lot of times they don't have that need, that drive, that desire until something changes in their life. Maybe they get married. Yeah. Maybe some kids come along, or maybe they just get to a point where they're like, they hit 30, 35 years old, and I just don't want to be going out and
burnout,
breaking my back, 8-10 hours a day for the next 30 years.
Right.
It's soul destroying.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you can, and the thing is if you continue down that path, just keep working the 40, 50, 60 hours a week at the end of this journey, because it ends at some point. You got to retire or whatever happens. Like, if you don't do things to change the business, then the business isn't really worth anything unless you can find somebody to come in and take it over.
Right. Yeah. It's generally worth, as a dollar value, and that, you say that dollar value is zero.
Right.
The beauty of working with trades folks is they love building things.
Yeah.
They love making change. They love having a plan. They love going in, and they love the finished product. Mm-hmm. So if you can then transfer that over to their actual business, then the magic starts to happen.
Right.
Start talking about what their vision is, what they really want. A lot of times I'll sit down with a client and say, what do you want? And they want $25,000 a year more money. And I look them in the eye and say, bullshit. And they go, I know I do. I actually want 50. And they say, and I say, no, you don't. You want what that $50,000 is going to give to you and what that $50,000 represents. And for a lot of them, it's freedom. It's the freedom to either have the time to do the things that they want to do, or the freedom to buy the things that they want to have, or to have the experiences for themselves and for their family. Once you can get into that mindset, and there's a great book, Simon Sinek's Start With Why. It talks all about this. Like, if they know why they're in business, they have a purpose bigger than themselves, then you can really get to work. So then you start off with that end goal. Okay, so we're going to build a business that's going to make X amount of dollars in the next 5 years. What changes do you need to make? And as you say, the very first thing is beginning to work on your business less than you work in your business. Really, really scary, particularly when they start looking at, but if I start doing 5 hours a week and I'm getting that's, they start running dollar amounts. That's $30,000 of income I'm not going to get this year.
Right.
And they're absolutely right, because that's $30,000 they're not going to get. So the work I do as a coach is helping them understand that by pulling yourself out of the business, hiring strategically, bringing in the right people to do the work, and then for you to grow the business, you're going to make much more than $30,000.
Right.
It may not be the first year, may not even be the second year, but in the third, fourth, fifth, 10th, 15th, and 20th year, you'll begin to grow something that not only will be a saleable asset, but it will be something that you can be proud of, something you'll enjoy going to work. And so when you hit 45 and 50 and the body begins to ache in the morning, you can still get out and go and do a job or two, but you don't have to. It's a choice, and ultimately you get that freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like some of the most successful people that I know in the trades that are older, that have been in the game for a long time, that is the most successful ones. That's what they do. They'll go out and, like, I have a plumber buddy that has been very successful, invested in properties young, has the plumbing company pretty much just to kind of keep his hands dirty, but doesn't need it. So like he'll go out and do a bunch of boilers, and he's got a guy that works for him that's like, probably at this point is probably taken over the company. But at the time when we were, really connected, he had somebody coming up behind him that was going to pretty much buy the business from him. Yeah. And then start paying him instead of him paying the guy, So I feel like trying that transition is just so hard for tradespeople in specific to understand, because we're so used to that hourly, every hour means money, so every hour I'm turning a wrench, every hour that I'm running cable, every hour that I'm putting up sticks, like that's how I make my money. But they don't look at it as what their value is to the company, right? Like, so, and again, in that book and a few other books that I've read about business and talking to people and mentors and that type of stuff, it's like, it's hard to make them understand. It's hard to make a lot of people understand that as a business owner, your value is X amount. So if you're taking a ride to Home Depot every day to pick up materials, that job's only worth $25 an hour. Your value is $200 an hour. Would you pay someone $200 an hour to drive to Home Depot and pick up materials?
Right.
So it's like, it's just, and I don't know, and maybe it's different. You've seen more businesses than I have. I've obviously been in more blue collar businesses than anybody else, or than a lot of people. Like, I've seen a lot of the way that they run and the way that they operate. It's just hard to like instill that fact and have them change their mindset on like working for the business instead of working on the business, or vice versa.
Yeah.
You know. So as far as, you know, your day-to-days and your process, let's talk about your process a little bit. Like if you have a new client that comes in and says, listen, I have a company, it's doing $850,000 a year, you know, but I want to grow and I want to get out of my tool belt. You know, where does that process start, and like, how long does it take to put together the process? I'm sure everybody's different, but there must be some kind of a process for you. Like, what does that process look like?
Yeah. You know, I like to think that when I come in as a trusted advisor. You know, for some reason they've hired me, they want change, and they think that I can help them get to that place that they want to be at. So the first thing is really working out, where do they want to be? And generally, blue collar, white collar, any business owner has no idea. They're just so frazzled from the day to day that they look at me like deer in the headlight. Like, I really don't know what I want. And I say, well, it's really easy then. Like, you know, we'll just do anything. And I, well, you know, there are a couple of things that I want. I don't want to be working so much. Okay, great. So, you know, that's a great place to start. So what does that look like from a positive outcome? Okay, I'm working 70 hours a week. I only want to work 40. All right. Well, that's a huge lifestyle change. If they're billing, you know, that's a whole different kettle of fish, isn't it? Their income is going to be significantly less. So if they say, I want to, by the end of the year, be working 30 hours a week less, they're going to need to make drastic strategic changes in order to make that happen. Are you going to hire someone? And the one thing I usually get is, I tried that.
Yeah.
Tried that. I brought this guy, John, in. Oh, man, John was terrible. You know, first day, he was great. And he was there. He was on time. He answered the phones. By the fourth day, he was there smoking cigarettes, annoying the customers. I had to fire him. I'm not hiring again. Well, then you're in a real bind, because then you've literally said to yourself, you know, I'm not going to have a business. I'm going to have a job.
Yep.
The question then becomes, you know, how much vetting did you do when you brought John in? Well, you know, I put an ad on Craigslist and he showed up, and, you know, I said, yeah, let's start. You know, that's not the place to start. You know, when you're becoming a strategic business owner, it's why am I hiring this person? What are they going to do? What are they going to bring? Are they skilled delivering services, or are they skilled in the office doing some of the admin stuff? You know, fast to hire, I got that around the wrong way. Slow to hire and be fast to fire. So take your time, 1 or 2 interviews, you know, do the background checks. Just when you bring someone in, make sure that they are aligned with you, your business values. And don't be thinking you're bringing them in forever. You know, you're better off having someone come in for 9 or 12 months that's really, really good than someone that comes in for 5 years and stinks the joint up.
Truth.
You know, a lot of people say, I want the continuity, but really what you want to do, you know, Richard Branson, British entrepreneur, said it best, like, you know, train your staff so well that they can go and work for anyone, and treat your staff so well that they don't want to. Yeah. And so really that's, you know, the first move is you bring someone in, work out why you're bringing them in, what they're going to do, are they a good fit, and are you going to train them and work with them adequately? You know, this is like leadership / management. Mm-hmm. Again, it takes that different mindset for, you know, it's not going on the job, showing up, doing the job, getting paid. Now, you know, you're investing for your business's future, you're investing in the future of this person you brought on. And again, a lot of times, you know, it's easy to say they didn't do it right. I do it much better myself. Dan Martell, in the book you recommended to me, says, you know, you're better off having someone do it at 80% than doing it yourself, because, you know, that frees up, you know, your time. I think the example he gives in the book is, you know, you get to go to your kid's baseball game. And, you know, for a lot of trades folks, you know, that's so far off in the distance. You know, the thought that they can take, you know, finish at 3 and go to their kid's ball game is, you know, is way off, because, you know, again, they're running dollars and cents, right. $80 an hour. That's the cost to get their kid's baseball game is like, you know, it's like Bruins tickets. Right?
Right. Well, it's that and timelines, right? Because they're up against it. Like, they got to get this house framed up by a certain date. You know?
Yeah. And, you know, the house needs to be ready, and they're going to turn around and say, no, I got a little league game coming up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, I've been able to see the transition at this point because like I went from that to kind of what I do now, and, I'm able to travel with my boys and do stuff, and, I'm able to do a podcast in the middle of the day, right? Like, and the business is still operating.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What was it that got you beyond that point from the dollars and cents an hour to the visionary, the business owner?
I'll tell you right now, I'm a fixer. I am not a proactive person. I am a fixer. So like I have to wait for something to be broken before I can fix it.
Yeah.
And I know that, and I work on it, right? And trying to be better at being proactive at fixing things, but I'm much better fixer than I am at being proactive. What happened is at the time when I opened the showroom, was about 5.5 years ago, I had a woodworking business. And at that time with the woodworking business, it was cabinet installs. We did kitchens 90% of the time. That's all we were doing. We did some millwork packages for like restaurants and breweries and that type of stuff. But the main focus of the business towards the end was kitchens.
Yeah.
It was easy for me to sell as a niche thing. We would work for contractors and builders because they wanted to take their finished carpenters to do other things. We would come in and do the kitchen itself. So I had the woodworking business. I opened the showroom and I had a cleaning company. And so what the idea was that sell the cabinets and countertops, install the cabinets and countertops, and do post-construction cleaning. I have to market and sell on one business, and then that feeds the rest of the businesses. It's kind of easy. And what happened was I had a business partner, and I had somebody working for me at the time who started with his tool belt on with me, but I brought him in as like a manager of the showroom because I couldn't be there every day. And they weren't doing anything, they were screwing off and drinking a lot and, just, not managing the company right. And I found out that we were in debt to a bunch of our fabricators and our vendors and this other stuff. And I pretty much was like, I got to do something different because this company is what's feeding the other two companies. So like, I have to do something to make this right. So at the time I had a carpenter working for me, and he was very new. I had brought him up. He didn't have any experience when he started with me. I trained him, but I only got about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years with him. And I brought him out to lunch one day and I said, listen, I got to take my tool belt off. I have to go into the cabinet company and get things right. I have to get in there and manage things better than what's happening right now. Said, so I'm either going to close the doors on the woodworking business and start subbing that work out, or I need you to step up and take care of this stuff. So he said, I'll give it a shot. So, I took my tool belt off and kind of spite and went in and managed the showroom. And, that's when me and my partner kind of parted ways. He got a little, ego trip about it and thought that I was going to fail and, kill the business, and ended up coming in and blowing it up. And, that's pretty much how it happened. I had to do that in order to keep the cabinet company going. And I still was like, once, maybe twice a week, I'd still go on the road to like check in on installs and like answer questions. And, every now and then I'd throw up like crown molding or do something like that. And it was kind of a slower transition, but, that's pretty much what happened. And like, and I've since closed down the woodworking business and closed down the cleaning company because, I don't really need those things. I can subcontract that stuff out. And I can find guys that can do that type of work that I don't have to worry about. And that's pretty much how it happened, man. That's how it happened. Yeah,
that's leadership. That's stepping up and saying, look, I'm responsible here.
Yeah,
I'm the one. I got to make it happen, and not waiting for it to happen.
Yeah,
but just grabbing the bull by the horns and saying, let's go, let's make it happen.
I'm good at that.
Yeah, and people gravitate towards that type of leadership.
Yeah,
those that say, you know what, I'm going to go do it. A lot of people say, I want to be part of that. I want to be part of Frank's enterprise. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah, and looking back, it's crazy. At the time, I'm sure you were like, full of self-doubt and wondering where this is going to get to. Wondering, it's going to make it to the end of the month, let alone the end of the year.
Right.
But, there's a thing when people step up, take leadership, make it happen, it invariably works out.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if it doesn't, at least you go down swinging. Like,
right.
That's my big thing. Like, I'll fail, I'll get beat up, and I'll get taken down.
This is a part of business that doesn't really get as much attention as it should. That failure is such a great teacher.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So many people sit there and say, I think I may do this in the future, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. I have this wonderful idea that I may do. 5 years, they're still thinking about that idea. Yeah, maybe we'll do it next year. You're always putting it off, and never getting the thing they want. And ultimately, they get to the end of their life, and then you sit around with them in a bar, and it's the dullest conversation you're ever going to have.
Right.
I could have done it.
Yeah.
I should have done it.
Yeah.
I wished I'd have done it. You don't want to have conversations with those in the bar. You want to sit down with people like you in the bar and hear, how did you make it happen?
Yeah.
How do you get to your son's lacrosse games?
Yeah.
How do you be, you and I are both divorced fathers. How do you become such a supportive father to your kids?
Yeah.
They're the stories that you want to hear. They're the ones that bring you alive.
Yeah, for sure. And it comes with fucking failure, man. And, I'm an open book. I tell people all the time, I've tried and failed at plenty of things, They're
the two best F words, right? Fucked it up, failed.
Yeah. But I am resourceful and I'm resilient and I'm gritty. And I know that I'm not going to stay down long, man. Just recently it's happened and we're still trying to fight our way out of it, right? We had a huge spring, ton of sales. I brought in 2 new designers, thinking things were going to keep going. Brought on 2 new designers. We brought in some new dual monitor design systems, and I expended out a bunch of money, and opened a new logistics location so that I could have more control over shipping, receiving, deliveries, that type of stuff, and shelled out a bunch of money thinking that these sales were going to continue, and they fucking died.
Right.
And I had to let go one of the designers, and then one of the other designers left, and we ended up in a hole. So I've been nose to the grindstone, back on sales, trying to get the money coming in and, trying to pay off vendors, and I owe people money, and, I failed. I made a decision thinking that here we go, we're off and running, and, it happened. Sales fucking died. What do you want me to do,
right.
And now I'm fighting out of that box, but there's plenty of days, dude. I go to bed, I'm like, what am I doing? I should just sell all this and be done with it. But, I have the self-doubt, and then I get up in the morning.
Get a job, go and work in corporate. Monday morning, it's not bad. Monday afternoon, I'm not sure about this. Tuesday morning, Tuesday lunchtime, you quit. You go start another business. Right?
Right.
I have that fantasy most weeks.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we all think about it, right? It happens.
Totally.
And I feel like a complete failure, right? I feel like I fucked that up, man.
But there's a word that you used, and it's resilience.
Yeah.
And that's really underrated in the world of business. We see it in sports, the resilient, the ones that come back from the injuries, the ones that are able to face the discomfort, face the challenges head on, resilience. But in the world of business, we kind of underrate resilience.
For sure.
If there's one thing that I want my kids to have, is resilience. There's one thing I want to model for my kids, is resilience. So when things get tough, things get challenging, are you going to curl up in a ball, hide in a corner and hope it all goes away? Or are you going to face it head on?
Yep.
And in business, sometimes it's being bold, making the bold decisions, having tough conversations with your staff, with your suppliers, with your customers, clients, having those tough conversations, but being the person that's willing to do that, willing to take the risk, willing to do the thing that you tried putting in the spring. Didn't quite work out the way you did, but now you know that that's possibly not the way to go, but it probably led to 3 different opportunities that you have now that you're going to be building on in 2025.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing is that all right, well, that didn't work out, right? So bringing on a bunch of staff isn't the best move, right? Yeah. But I also have kind of a new plan or a new idea that I could probably do. Instead of hiring a designer, right, as I could hire a salesperson and have somebody else helping me go after those sales, right? And we have our lead designer. She can take a ton of work. She's very efficient at what she does. And if it turns into something where it's too much for her for too long, I can outsource design. So I can send the salesperson out to do the measurements. We can send it to, we use a website called Upwork, and it's just a bunch of subcontracted everything. You can get architects, you can get designers, you can get anything you can think of. Outsource it when we need to. Keep as much on her plate as possible so that she's busy and she's making money. Outsource the rest of it. And then, at a point when we are outsourcing too much, then bring on a designer, So it's I try to learn in everything, right? How did I fail? Why did this fail? It's the shit that keeps me up all night. I don't sleep. My eyes been twitching for 3 days. That's the stuff that I think about. Okay, I screwed up, man. Damn. What can I do next time? Because failure is just not an option. You know what I mean? Not for me. There's just not a quitting bone in my body. I don't know how to do that. So like, what do we got to change? What do we got to do different? And how are we going to make this better? And at the end of the day, for me in that situation, sales weren't coming in. Why weren't sales coming in? Because I was busy. I had 2 new designers that we were training, trying to get them up to date on all the processes, making sure all their paperwork was in place, making sure that they had what they needed. I spent so much time in development and trying to get them up and going that I wasn't out trying to get sales.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, well, I can't do that again, unless I can find somebody to do the sales for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is a smart next move, but you never would have known that from where you started off.
Right.
Yeah. So experience is such a great teacher.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I can also see how like it would have put a lot of people on the ground and like made a lot of people quit.
Yeah, and that's why, depending on the statistics you look at, it's between 3 and 7% of people own their own business in America. Yep. And everybody else works for those people, because they're the ones that are willing to do the work, to do the grind, to take the risk, to make it happen, to stay the course. And ultimately, they're the ones that at the end of their lives, they get to look back and say, you know what, I did it. I went for it. I had a dream in my heart. I made it happen. And, maybe it didn't go the way, when I look back when I was 25 years old, I was going to be, the greatest soccer coach. I was going to coach. Come to America. Yep. Americans don't know how to play soccer. I'm going to show them. I'm going to be the one that really teaches that game, transforms that game. And I realized that it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Still love the sport of soccer, but running around in a pair of shorts, chasing kids wasn't my thing. Winning soccer games. I was a pretty decent soccer coach. I was able to get really strategic, fire players up, get them motivated. It was great, when I was younger, but I looked into the rest of my life and said, I can probably use these skills in a way that's going to have a much greater impact. Right. And so, that's what I've done. And, my goal is to help the Boston and Boston area community, business owners there, those that are willing to jump on board and say, I want some help. I want to do, great things for my business. They align with my values, and we get to work as partners, and we make it happen.
Yeah, I love that. So one of the biggest things, the biggest topics that comes up on the podcast, speaking with the trades guys, is finding help. Like they have such a hard time finding guys to come in and help them. And just thinking about my buddy Brendan Moore, he has an electrical company. He does well for himself. He works a lot, but does well for himself. Just bought a house with his wife. They're doing a bunch of work on the house. Has a nice truck. Just had a new baby. And he's good, but he brings in a lot of apprentices and is always looking for another licensed electrician to come in and help him grow the business. And he just has such a hard time finding that. I guess what kind of advice or what does your process look like for trying to recruit, and find people? I have the same issue with trying to find designers, and trying to keep designers. I have a hard time keeping designers. Our turnaround is way too high, and it's like trying to find designers that are skilled, that have the experience in the software that we use. In design, sales is a big part of your job too. So someone that has that sales experience, trying to find those people and keep those people is one of the most difficult things for me. And I know keeping staff and hiring staff is one of the hardest things for a lot of these guys, especially in the trades. What kind of advice would you give for that?
Yeah, going back to what we were talking about, definitely hire slowly. Not just bringing on the first guy. It's building your network. It's a lot of times in the trades, people see other trades people as their competition, right? And in a certain respect, they are the competition, right? But if you can begin to see them as your peers, as your advice group, as people that can help you along the way, building your network. I think grew up in England, and they say the best thing you need to do for your business is to become a good networker. So they say go out and network. They don't teach you how to network. And same thing in America, right? Most important thing you're gonna need to do in your business life is to network. Now go network. You spent 4 years doing your degree, however long, getting your high school diploma, but they never teach you how to network.
Yeah.
So network to me is developing meaningful relationships by providing value.
I love that.
Yeah. So, a lot of people see networking as I want to just fill my sales pipeline. Right?
Yeah.
And you see it that way, you just become Mr. Transaction, Mrs. Transaction. Well, you want to become, Mr. Relationship. How can you build meaningful relationships and bring value? we met at a networking event, and you've brought tremendous value to my life by having this, having me on this podcast. I love talking about this stuff. I love getting my message out, and quite frankly, the conversation that we had, was it a week or two ago?
Yep.
And some of the things that you said, I'm still really sitting with. I'm like, yes, Frank's a really insightful business guy. So it's building those types of relationships, whether they're, within your industry or adjacent to your industry, just because you're an electrician, maybe you want to get to know some plumbers that you can refer, really good people, again, aligned with your values, that you would trust with your life, that, when your client or customer says, a plumber, said, I don't just know a plumber, I know someone that can be here by 6 and they're going to do a great job for a great price for you. You become that, you become the person that begins to attract people into your orbit.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people that say that, I'm just can't find the staff, can't find the people, they probably haven't got the network to bring those types of people in. Are they reaching out to colleges, schools, offering to go in, maybe teach a class, or taking 1 or 2 of them on as, doing some internships, that type of thing, developing relationships. So when, those really good students are coming out of the schools, they get not even needing to recruit, they're getting recommended.
Yeah.
Hey, you should go work with Frank. Frank's amazing at business. We've known Frank for 3 years, and what I recommend is, if you want to really get your career started, go work with Frank. And maybe they come in and they only work for 1 or 2 years, but you get great work from them. You get to develop and grow them, and then you get a steady pipeline coming from the school.
Yeah.
Similar thing with the networks that you build. Do you know real estate agents? Like, real estate agents always need, that type of, but they're always meeting people that are coming into town, and people that are coming into town buying houses. They have kids. Oh, my kid's an electrician, but they're new to the area. They don't know where to get a job. Oh, you know what? I do know someone. Yeah. It's cliche, but they say your network is your net worth.
I say it all the time.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And if you dig into what that really means, it means that you're the sort of person that's willing to do things for others that most people won't be.
Yeah.
I have my airport rule, right? I will take my worst enemy to the airport. I will drive them there and drop them off, and I'll pick them up any time of the day or night, because I like to travel a lot. And I know what it's like getting on a 6-hour flight, being exhausted, not getting any sleep, time changes, getting to the airport, and then either needing to get an Uber, a taxi, a train, a bus. But having someone show up, that a friend you can just check in with, they'll pick you up, drive you. I'll take my worst enemies to the airport. I'm the sort of person that will do that, and I like to surround myself with people that do that. That go above and beyond to help each other out. And they're the ones that build strong, successful networks, whether it's in life, friendships, relationships. Strong networks are the thing that strong networks are going to be the thing that make the difference between a business does okay and a business that thrives.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Every part of that. It's funny. I was just thinking as you were talking about, because like inter-industry relationships, like a lot of people, again, you said like they see it as competition. I went to an event, one of my fabricators down in Chelmsford, Mass, invited me and actually me and John went. They invited us to a Celtics game. Yeah. And it was like she had box seats and food and beer and all that type of stuff. And there was two other cabinet companies there that she does business with. She's a fabricator, so she works with a lot of us, right? And, to pretty much make it in that room, you have to do a lot of business with her. And like, I was one of the guys, so it was like, felt good about it. And I went in and she was like, hey, I just want to let you know that like, there's going to be other cabinet companies here, but I'd love to introduce you. She's like, I hope that's okay. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love that, And so I met a couple other guys that have the same type of businesses as me, people that I'm in direct competition with. And, I reached out to them afterwards, like I did with you. Like we met, I got their cards, sent them an email next day. Hey, it was great meeting you. I know we're in direct competition, but if you ever want to grab a cup of coffee or something to eat, like I'd love to chat. We can just talk business. And it came up actually a couple of weeks ago. I had another buddy who owns a company called Airwise Testing. They do like air testing and all this stuff. And he's like, hey, I'm thinking about going to this like show what do they call them? It's like a trade show almost. And he's like, they want me to go and kind of set up a booth and sell and stuff. And he's like, what do you think about those things? And I was like, I mean, some of them are great, but some of them are a complete waste of money. I said, let me look at the vendor list. So I was looking through the vendor list, and one of the guys from the cabinet company that I would talk to that time goes to it and sets up. He's been setting up at it for years. So sent him an email. I'm like, hey, what's up, man? Like, long time no talk. Hope all is well. I have a buddy that's thinking about going to this trade show. I noticed that you've been going to this trade show for a little bit. Like, do you have any input? Do you think the value's worth it? Like, this is what he does. And he called me back about an hour later. I was like, hey, what's up, man? It's great to hear from you. Like, gave me a ton of great insight about that trade show. And pretty much said, like, he should definitely do it. And so, like, called my buddy back and said, hey, I looked at the vendor list. I found somebody I knew on there. And he says, you should definitely do it. And now he's like signed up and going to do it. Now, for me, right, it doesn't do anything for me. I get no value out of that, really. There's not like I'm making money or I'm going to the trade show. I'm going to go to the show just to kind of check it out and stuff. But as far as like those relationships, like now the way that I look at it is my buddy that has the Airwise testing, if he does well at the show, he's going to be grateful to me for that, right? And hopefully my name comes up if he has somebody that needs a kitchen. And it also keeps me on the radar with like that other cabinet company, because like they've been very successful. They've been at business for 35 years or something like this. They've been doing this a long time, and this guy has run the show forever. And he's got a ton of builders that I've always wanted, so like he's been doing it right. And I just feel like it helps me to kind of solidify relationships on both sides, and not that I'll have any real direct financial impact or direct, money coming in because of those relationships, but having that network and being able to keep those two relationships together, for me, there's value in that, and it's not monetary, but there's value because like now, after when I go to the show, I can go and talk to the cabinet guy, and hopefully we can set up lunch and I can pick his brain a little bit. And, now hopefully my buddy goes and is successful at the show. And like, I feel like I had a part in that. And like, for me, there's just value. I love helping those people, and in return, hopefully it pays back.
Yeah, you help enough people, it comes back to you.
Yeah.
It really does. It usually comes back to you with a ton of interest as well.
Yeah.
I think one of the big challenges we have in probably the whole Western world is we get too focused on ourselves, on making it for us, and not really worrying about helping the next person, helping, person that's 10 years younger than you, or helping someone that's not doing quite so well as you. You get focused on just your day-to-day, and the blinders come on. Yeah. The more that you can take those off and just reach out to those who are not doing so well. I mean, you and I are both BNI members. And the beauty of BNI for me is it forces you to get in a room with great people every single week.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't do it. We'd love to think that we would, don't need to be members, we'd
Right.
show up at 7 a.m. and just share our best business advice and strategies and thoughts and relationships, how your kids doing. We'd do it without the structure of BNI. BNI is a great. There are other great networking organizations, but BNI is a great networking organization because it forces you to do the things that you should be doing in your business anyway, which is building really strong relationships.
Yeah. I love BNI. I really do. I'm such a Kool-Aid drinker in that turn. Like before. I got it because I've only been in BNI for I think like a year and a half now. I think I'm going in my second year, and I've always had a network, right? I've always had a bunch of people. I know a lot of people, and I've always tried to keep those relationships as well as I can. I've always understood the value of networking, but after going to BNI and really kind of getting involved, I didn't realize how to network, like you were saying earlier, like. I knew networking, right? Like you go and shoot the shit with people and talk business and like, but I didn't really understand how to network. And I think BNI really helped me to figure that out. And it just completely blew up my networking sphere. Like, I just know so many people in so many different avenues, and all of those people bring value to me in some kind of way, and I think that, BNI has really kind of opened up my eyes to make me. It just solidified my already understanding of how important your network is, Yeah.
Cool, you were talking about, what can the business owner do, a blue collar business owner do, the first steps. All right. So the first practical steps. One is get a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
Because that begins the delegation process. You may not be ready to bring on a staff member, but you need someone to get into your closet, get those 6 shoe boxes out and start going through those receipts,
True.
right? Because, it's fun the first 6 months, 12 months you do it. I can do it. I'll get to it late. Maybe I'll file my taxes a little bit. It'll be fine. I'll get to it. And eventually you get to it. You get busier, you get busier. So really the first leadership task is to find a really good bookkeeper. And one of the most challenging things to do in business is to find a really good bookkeeper.
I was just going to ask you that. How do you find one of those? Because I've been through a few.
Yeah, but it's the same process, right? You ask for recommendations from your close contacts. Who have you got that's working for you? And generally, I ask this question a lot, and they go, "Well, I got someone. I wouldn't recommend them though." All right?
Right. I've said that before.
Yeah. So maybe we should start a side business, like bookkeepers that actually do the things that they should be doing.
Right.
But I do know some really good bookkeepers that are really on top of things, that really are an asset to the company. So that's one of the first things to do. Hire a bookkeeper. At least get into the process of beginning to hire the bookkeeper. Second thing is to join a networking organization, because it's not, even if you're not going to be marketing your business so much through word of mouth, building that network is going to be crucial in so many different ways. Finding suppliers, finding vendors, finding support, finding a bookkeeper, the next step, finding a really great accountant that's, really good with business. So joining a networking organization, and the beauty of that, and beauty particularly something like BNI, is it forces you to make that decision. Okay, my BNI meeting's on a Wednesday morning. I can make $300 on a Wednesday morning, but I can go to this event, do some marketing, some networking, get better with my business, and still be out by 8:30. I can still be on the job by 9.
Yep.
So that's the beauty of the time frame that BNI is at. So then, to me, are the baby steps, like hire a bookkeeper, join a networking event, and then the next piece will probably be begin to start educating yourself around what growing a business looks like. There's tons of great YouTube content out there. I'd be looking at things like, Simon Sinek and his leadership. Totally blanking on other YouTube channels that I watch for business, but reading some books, I recommend the E-Myth Revisited by a guy called Michael Gerber. It's the concept we've been talking about throughout this, which is working on your business, not so much in your business. Mm-hmm. Customer service. There's a really great book came out last year. Michael Gardura, I think his name is. And it's called Uncompromising Hospitality. And it just is all about customer service. I define customer service as delighting your customers or your clients. And this book talks about how in the hospitality industry, they fail so much and it costs them so much repeat business. And once you get some systems in place to really begin to delight your customer, then repeat business and referral business comes. The one story that really sticks out for me is there was a restaurant, I believe it was in New York, and they were looking about what the customer experience was. It's a reasonably high-end experience, reasonably high-end restaurant, and they wanted to create the experience of when what do people that go to restaurants called? The customers? Yeah, customers, right? Patrons, diners. When the diners when the diners first come in, they just want a frictionless, they want a nice welcome and they want a frictionless trip to their table. So they worked out a system where they knew who was coming, generally identified who they were. What's your name? John. John comes in, and they would have like a system where they would say, how do you like your water? And it would be like, I like it, room temperature. Oh, I like it with ice. I like it sparkling. Great, wonderful. By the time they'd come in and sat down, the folks on the front desk had sent baseball signals.
No way.
And then so the waitress would fill the water up. By the time they sat down, their exact order of order was placed at their table. And so, they wanted sparkling with ice. Sparkling with ice was there.
Oh, and that saves a trip.
Saves a trip, but think about it from the customer's point of view. They've gone in and gone, this place is not just good. This place is phenomenal.
Right.
In their mind, the only way it can go is down, right? Yeah. But, they've just started off, and because they were focused on customer service, So then, let's bring it round to, blue collar trades. What can we begin to do in the blue collar and trades to give outstanding customer service? Being in contact is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the ticket to entry is like really low in the trades, right? Are they going to show up?
Right.
Right. But if you can be the one that shows up every time, you begin to differentiate yourself. You begin to get a reputation. Are you the one that keeps them in the loop, that sends the text? I had a contractor about 12 years ago that returned a screw to Home Depot for 6 cents and gave me the receipt. And
Wow.
I'm like, you didn't need to do that. But looking back, it sent the message that, he was really focused on making sure that
Transparency.
Yeah. And that was really smart customer service and marketing. And look at it. I can't even remember the guy's name, but like 12 years later, I can still remember the story and how I felt.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hard part, man, is that like there's a lot of great contractors out there, but there is also a lot of scumbags, man. Like, bottom line, there are some scumbags, and they've set the bar really low.
Yeah.
On a lot of things. And when I was on a tool belt, I used to tell the guys all the time, like, listen, man, all we have to do is show up when we say we're going to show up, work an 8-hour day, not take a 3-hour lunch, not take 30 smoke breaks a day, and do your job. Before you even pick up a tool, before you pick up a piece of material, if you can do those things, you're already better than 90% of them out there.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? And if you can do good work, that puts you in the top 5% right off the bat. Like, so, and it's not that hard. It doesn't take skill or experience to show up on time and to show up when you say you're going to show up and work. Like, that's what you're getting paid for, and it's amazing that, like, if a contractor tells you, like, hey, I'll be there at 9:00, nobody thinks that contractor is going to be there at 9:00.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's terrible. It's that bar is set so low, And if you can come in, like, I'm just notorious for being early, 30 minutes early to just about everything when I can be. Now, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But, like, I strive to be that, because the anxiety that I get when I know that I'm going to be late is crippling. I hate it. Like, I can't stand it. So I just try not to do it,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty amazing how low the bar is set for a lot of those guys.
Yeah. But then when you differentiate yourself and you distinguish yourself and you start getting a name and a reputation, your reputation is everything. And, we're in 2024. There's Yelps, there's Google reviews, there's Facebook reviews, there's Facebook groups, there's all sorts of ways to get recommended. You go above and beyond, give great value, great service. You do it ahead of time, under budget, with, a smile on your face. You really differentiate yourself. And then, again, word gets out that you're the type of person to do business with. And ultimately, you're the type of business that someone would like to come and work for.
Yeah. It's a tough balance, though. And I don't know if it's just a trades thing or if it's industry.
Why do you say that?
Because there's a lot of people that are looking for issues. And once they find one issue, they want everything for free. And it's really difficult to find that balance or that sweet spot where you're doing enough to satisfy, but not doing too much where you're going to lose your shirt.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if it's just the trades or if it's in every industry, but that's sometimes you just run across those customers, man, and they just want, to negotiate everything. They think they're owed everything. And, they think because, like, you didn't fill a nail hole that they don't have to pay you an extra $1,500. Like, it's kind of crazy the way that it works sometimes. And it's not every customer, don't get me wrong, but, like, sometimes people just want as much for free as possible.
Yeah.
Not realizing that, like, we have a family. We have a family to feed. Like, I can't just give you everything for free. Like, and even if we screwed up, like, I get it. We messed up. I'll do everything that I can to make that right. But that doesn't mean that I do everything to make it right and then give you thousands of dollars off. Like, and trying to have that conversation and trying to make people or customers understand your perspective, but also being understanding of theirs is a really tough balance. Yeah. And at the same time, like, blue collar guys are usually not the most patient.
Yeah.
You know?
So I'm going to give some counterintuitive advice here.
I love it.
But a lot of times, see it in all industries, particularly in construction, the trades, you're so willing to take the work on that you ignore a lot of the red flags. That the person is really impatient. They sent you 5 emails. We need to get there. And then when you show up, they're playing with their kid. They're on their phone. They're disrespectful. If they were going to be, you were hiring them for your company, you were like, I'm not hiring that person in 100 years. But yet you take on their business because they're willing to get their checkbook out. If you build a business strategically and start talking about your values, you find you get less and less of those people. And if you have a pipeline that from great customer service through great marketing that really attracts the right people into the business, the right referrals, you can start to differentiate between not so good customers that are going to take you for a ride and those that are going to really appreciate the work that you do. And the ones that everyone's going to talk about you, right? The ones that aren't going to appreciate you, that want you to bang the nail in and not going to pay you the $1,500, they're going to badmouth you no matter what you do. If you
For sure.
gold-plated those, the faucets, you went in, replaced all the carpets for free, still going to badmouth you because it should have been done on Monday and they didn't get it done till Wednesday.
Yeah.
The ones that really do appreciate you, they hang out with other people that also have those values. They also appreciate good work. They also, know the value that you bring. They're going to make those referrals, those recommendations. They're going to have those conversations, leave those wonderful Google reviews for you because you've gone above and beyond. And they'll be the ones that will bring in the better type of business that you want. And so, my thing is, there are going to be people out there that want to underpay and undervalue and nickel and dime you. Let's leave those for someone else. Let's focus on growing a business where we don't need to work with those people. Let's focus on a business where, really what we're doing when we're called in to price up a job is we're interviewing them. Yeah. Are they good enough for my business? And that's a real huge mind shift.
Man, it's tough. I mean, it's tough. That mind shift is tough, and saying no is tough. It's funny. Same guy.
Here's the thing, Frank. All right. You say no to enough of the right things, what comes into your life are the things that you really want.
Yeah.
And the opportunities you really want. And again, it's not the short-term mindset, I want it now. Because that's what these customers are, right? They are the short-term mindset, I want it now, and they don't want to build a relationship with you. They want to get things done for as quick as possible. If they can if they can find a guy that's going to undercut you by $500, you think they got any loyalty? No way. No. But, those that really, truly, they've got the means to pay for you and they appreciate you. If you go $2,000 over budget, you've got the relationship, have the conversation. Here's the reason we're going to go $2,000 over budget. They're probably going to be totally fine with it. And they'll be happy that they, were part of the negotiation and, they'll tell their friends. People love sharing those stories.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough, man. I guess
whoever
you're
said
right.
this was supposed to be easy, right?
No,
we were
I guess
talking
you're
about.
I guess you're right. I mean, we used to see a lot more of that than we do now. And I want to say that in looking back on it, the differences are we've put much different processes in place to limit mistakes. Because that's the thing, right? Is that one mistake is what opens the door to all of those things.
Right.
Now, we're not perfect. And in designing kitchens, there's just so many moving pieces. There's so much communication back and forth. It's hard to get it perfect 100% of the time. Once you create those mistakes, opens the door. So we've put processes in place and we continue to build our processes to make sure that we're limiting those types of mistakes. Not that I would say no to a customer, but the conversation now is that the customers that I've seen that are like that are usually the ones that come in and they're like, yeah, we got to get this ordered. We want to have this done before this date. We got to, can we do this? And it's those people that now we have that conversation and say, listen, the process of designing a kitchen is going to take time. If we rush this, we mess up a measurement, or if we, go through this too fast, then you're not going to get the kitchen that you want, and you're stuck with that kitchen for the next 30 years. So our process takes this amount of time most of the time. So if you don't think you have that amount of time, then maybe we're just not the right fit. I love that. And I think that in having that conversation, I just had that conversation last week with somebody. I have a contractor who always calls me last minute. Like, dude, you've been working on this job for 3 months. You could have 3 months ago to get this vanity. Now you want it tomorrow. Like, I can't do it. I don't know what to tell you. I have other projects going on. I have other jobs. We won't be able to start this for a couple of days. If you can wait and we can go through the entire process like we usually do, then I have no problem. But like, if you can't wait, man, like, just go to Home Depot. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know what to tell you. And it sucks. Like, because again, like, I'm worried about losing a contractor, right? Like, and contractors bring in 3 to 20 kitchens a year for me. So like, if I say no to one job and he goes to Home Depot, does he continue to go to Home Depot?
Yep.
And it's like, it's scary, man. Scary.
It is. Yeah. You need to take him out for a beer and tell him exactly why 3 months earlier really helps you, helps him, helps everyone. And then another beer the next month and just reinforce it.
Yeah. We had a good conversation, and luckily I know him good enough where like we can shoot the shit and I can joke around. And
that's what it's about. It's all about, having relationships that mean something.
Yeah.
Not looking at people with dollar signs on their heads.
Yeah.
And this is one of the real challenges I have with business. I come from overseas. So I like to think I come in with like an outsider's perspective to America, and I love America. I told you, when I first arrived in America, this is my place. Like, love the culture, love the opportunities, love the climate. It was something about America. It's the sunshine. It's this big country, but also I think that I can come in and also cast a somewhat critical eye as an outsider.
Yep.
And a lot of times I come in and I'll just see that Americans just put themselves and the dollar slightly ahead of where it needs to be. It's kind of like the almighty dollar becomes the thing rather than what we're really trying to achieve here by growing a business. Is it a dollar amount? Because you can probably make more on the stock market investing than you can putting your blood, sweat, and tears into a business for 30 years. So what is it ultimately that you want to be building? What do you want to achieve? And that's where having a business having like some core values. So one of mine for my own business is impact. It's like, am I making an impact in what I do? And if I'm not living up to my core values. If I have a client that is constantly talking about making changes but never making change, well, I'm not helping them.
Yeah.
I need to kind of have that conversation that you have. Look him in the eye and say, are you going to do this work, or should we just go our separate ways?
Yeah.
And again, that's tough to do, right? Because I'm in business for myself.
Right.
But the right person was like, you're right. I'll put it off for long enough, and they'll move forward.
Yeah. Makes sense to me, man.
Yeah.
All right. We are boiling down here. So I think that
I thought we were just getting started.
We'll get into what we call toolbox tips.
Okay.
Where you give practical advice. I feel like you've given a shit ton of advice already, but practical advice for anybody that's thinking about getting into the trades, starting in the trades, starting a business, that advice that you would give to yourself 20 years ago that you've learned. Before we get into that, I got to yell at the audience. Listen, sorry, Dennis made me laugh. The podcast is fully funded out of my pocket. It costs me thousands of dollars a month to keep this thing going. We want to be able to bring in sponsorship. We want to be able to bring in sponsors that will help offset some of the costs of the podcast. In order for me to do that, I need to be able to show them that we have an audience and that we have an audience that's engaged in our content and what we're doing. So I've put a lot of work into this. Our team has put a lot of work into this. And I started this thing because I wanted to help. Like, I want to give back to the trades. I owe a debt to the trades. I'd be dead or in prison without them. And paying back that debt is giving out this information, bringing people on that have the right information, that want to help and help a lot of these businesses grow. The only thing I ask in return is like the pages, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share this, share our content, share our posts, get the word out there for us, tell your friends about it. we need the engagement in order to bring in sponsorship, and I need sponsorship in order to keep this thing going. So that's my only ask. And let's get back into it.
All right.
So I'm sorry I had to yell at everybody.
You're good at it though, right?
Yeah, I did my best.
And there's a part of you that enjoys it.
A little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit. Maybe it's enjoyable. So yeah, man, practical advice, some toolbox tips. I mean, what would be that one piece of advice?
Find a mentor or a coach. And I know it sounds self-serving that I'm a business coach, but find somebody that's been there before that you can bounce your ideas off of, because you're going to have 3 types of ideas. You're going to have fantastic ideas, you're going to have okay ideas, and you're going to have terrible ideas. And you get into business for yourself, and you start executing on some terrible ideas, you're not going to be in business for very long. So someone that's been there before that can give you some good advice, whether it's paid or whether it's somebody that that's in a similar type of business. Sit down, take them out to dinner, and just pick their brains. People love sharing. People love telling you about the things that they did right, the things they did wrong, the lessons they learned. They will share anything and everything. And people love to help. People want to help you. People do really want to help you.
Yeah, and people love talking about themselves.
Yeah.
I started reading how to influence people and win friends, or how to win friends.
And Dale Carnegie, right?
Yeah. So I just started on that book. A friend told me that I should read it. And that was one of the things that he was talking about in communication. He's like, let people talk about themselves.
Absolutely.
Everybody loves to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
I think that mentors are a great, I'd be lost without mine, right? Like I have people that I just look up to in business and just love to shoot the shit. And luckily they're like-minded and want to talk business too. If you didn't have that mentor, if they didn't have somebody, or if they didn't have a business coach, what do you think they should look for in that person? Like, because I feel like I've talked to people a lot, and they're like, I don't know who to fucking talk to about this stuff. Like, I don't know. What would be your process for finding the right person to do that with?
I would activate your network. I'd think about your 5 closest, either friends or business colleagues, and talk to them. Ask them how they got started. Ask them who they know, who they could talk to, if they know anybody in their industry. If they're a plumber, who pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone and talk to, the most successful plumber, in the phone book. There's no phone books anymore, right? Most successful
on Google
search,
on
right?
Facebook.
Yeah, I'm dating myself. Yeah, I'm gonna be 54 this week. Yeah.
Oh, happy birthday, man! What day?
7th.
Nice. Hell
yeah. Pearl Harbor Day. I grew up like half of my life not knowing what Pearl Harbor was. Like everyone would say, "Oh, it's Pearl Harbor Day." I'm like, in England, it kind of means like not much. And I came to America. I'm like, wow, that does mean a lot.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of forgot where I was at, but
So finding with phone books.
Yeah. So just there are people out there that want to help, and so activating your network to get introduced to somebody that's kind of been there. There are books. Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie is a great place to start. There are tons of great business books out there that are only a Google search away.
Yep.
As I mentioned, podcasts are great. YouTube is fantastic. One podcast I listen to is called The One Thing. It's actually Keller Williams. But they do a fantastic business podcast. It is so focused on business principles. The one thing being like, what's the one thing that you can do in your business that makes everything else kind of obsolete, and just really focusing on that as a business owner. It's a great concept. That's a great one. There's a couple of the BNI podcasts are really good.
Yeah.
Guy up in New Hampshire, Tim Roberts, runs one called Power of One. I recommend that.
I've listened to that one a couple of times. Good dude.
Not just for BNI and networking, but for some good sound business principles. And the guy's been in business his whole life. So
thinking about actually reaching out to him. You said that, and it kind of sparked an idea I had a while ago and forgot about it. But thinking about reaching out to him and seeing if I could get him on.
Yeah, get Tim on. Tim, he only lives up here. I think he's up in Manchester. Yeah, it's fantastic. Just knows business inside out and gets the BNI philosophy, lived it. I actually got trained in BNI from his dad.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, his dad, Mike, he used to run the fire department and BNI New Hampshire. There were his 2 jobs and his 2 passions. And he ran BNI like he ran the fire department. It was just brilliant.
I love it.
And I remember showing up for this training and drove all the way up to Manchester. And it was a day's training. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. I thought BNI is like, kind of like touchy-feely. We're going to he just came in and read the riot act for 8 hours, like about, the things that you're doing to sabotage your business, sabotage your network, sabotage your referrals. But he knew the business inside out. He was absolutely brilliant. Designed a ton of the training that BNI still uses now. So yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, and so then his son starts off by selling insurance in BNI. Has to go into BNI. Like,
right.
You're not going to any college. You got to BNI. Like, can I get free membership? No, you're going to pay as well.
Right. And there's no family friend discount.
Thanks, Dad. But right. Ultimately, started working with him and then bought his dad out. Yeah,
that's cool.
I think he owns 3 franchises now. I think there's one down in Florida, maybe another one up here in the Northeast. But yeah, he's a great business. That'd be my recommendation. Get him on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Tim Roberts.
Yeah, that's sweet, man. That's great advice. Yeah, business coaches and that. I mean, again, I don't know what I'd do without mine. So glad that came up. Thank you for the advice. So I noticed that you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you have a LinkedIn page. I think you have a YouTube channel.
Yep.
So you can find all that stuff. We'll have links to Dennis's stuff on our YouTube page. John, is there any way that we can get like books that we talked about from the podcast and like Sure, we can link those? All right, so we'll link some of the books and stuff too that we had talked about. And feel free to reach out to me or reach out to Dennis if you have any questions. Good deal?
It's been a pleasure,
All
Frank.
right, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Hey, we'll talk soon.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody.